That means return to your corner there, Mr. Zion.
Good evening, everybody. I would like to open up a public hearing regarding the intent to apply for a brownfield opportunity area designation for 68 Church Street, Canajoharie, New York. And I do know that Vincent Nicosia of our Economic Development and Planning Department is here to speak on the matter as well as anybody else who would like to. Vin?
Yeah, so just real quickly, this really is just intent and support for our BOA application to make the former BeachNet site brownfield opportunity area. And this is to obviously gain support, so developers can obviously use it as different incentives, utilize it. So after this, the public hearing, it's just about getting some paperwork together, then we're going to submit our application. So we pretty much have everything together now. So we're looking to submit a copy of that. If anyone has any questions or anything, feel free.
All right. Thank you, Vin. Any other comment on the public hearing regarding the brownfield? Hearing none, our first public hearing is closed. We'd like to call our second public hearing to order. This is a public hearing regarding the 2021 Microenterprise Grant Program application through the Office of Community Renewal Community Development Block Grant. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak other than Vincent Nicosia from our planning department? Hearing none. Vince?
So again, this is just the intent and support to submit a microenterprise grant, CDBG grant through HCR, and to support to submit our application. We did a pre-screening seminar last week, and we had about 15 to 20 different businesses that definitely want to try to utilize the grant. So having them fill out some pre-screening forms, and we have a lot of interest in this grant. So the next process after this is to get together all the pre-screening forms, put together the application, and then eventually submit for the grant. So that would probably take place again in May, or May or June will be submitted. If anyone has any questions?
If there's no other public comment regarding this public hearing, the public hearing is closed. Good evening. I'd like to call the April 2021 meeting of the Montgomery County Legislature to order. And clerk, can we have a roll call, please?
Chairman Peck,
Present.
Legislator Isabel,
Present.
Legislator Patel,
Here.
Legislator Kelly,
Present.
Legislator Sweet, Legislator Diamond,
Present.
Legislator Hedlow,
Present.
Legislator Wilson,
Present.
Legislator Duchessis.
All right, Legislator Diamond, can you please lead us in our pledge to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing as we pay tribute to some citizens of Montgomery County who served us in the military and served our county, including David S. DeForest, the United States Marine Corps, served honorably 3rd Marine Division, 13 months in Vietnam, and participated in 14 operations in the war zone. Walter Walt Malkowitz, a U.S. Army veteran serving during the Korean War. William Robert Mason Jr., U.S. Army, served from 1995 to 1997. Clement A. Clem DeBerry used to work for us and retired from the county, working in our Department of Public Works. Also, Cranesville Volunteer Fire Department, serving as Chief and Assistant Chief, as well as the Hegeman Volunteer Fire Department. Peter V.O. Ripley, who worked for the Town of Glen Highway Department. Sandra Ann Rava, who is Brenda Rava, our Director of Youth Bureau's aunt. And Stephen Diggy Digon, who is the son of Peggy Sentai Digon, who works in our county clerk's office. A moment of silence, please. Thank you. Okay, is anybody in our audience who would like to make any public comments this evening? Yes, please, step to the rail and welcome.
You're good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Meg Kennedy. I'm a county representative with the County of Otsego and also a member and current chair of the Greater Mohawk Valley Land Bank. And I thank you for listening tonight, members of the legislature and Mr. Chair, clerk of the board, county attorney, and county treasurer. I have just a brief time, I know, and I've been mulling through ways that I could present to you that would kind of underscore the value that Otsego County has found in forming a partnership with the county, with the land bank. And the story begins at the same time as I began my tenure on the board, which I'm in my 6th year as a representative, serving in my 2nd year as vice chair on the board, and also in my 6th year on the land bank board. And as a representative, and your legislators here, but we do the same function as in Otsego. We learn about foreclosed properties and soon find out that sort of a inexact process. And we had an intersection of foreclosed properties, and the land bank being the entity that deals with foreclosed properties, a foreclosing governmental unit. This all was kind of on the same learning curve for me. And we had a behemoth building in Richfield Springs, 3 stories, 20 Lake Street, dilapidated, been through the auction several times, $20,000 in arrears, interest, penalties, fees, and the treasurer presented us with that building and the news that we had to face tearing it down at an expense of $100,000 estimated. Well, our county's tax cap is very small, the amount that we can increase and go over, about $270,000. So this would be roughly 1/3 of what we could possibly even go over. So Tolga and I were working at the time on the board of the Greater Mohawk Valley Land Bank, We brought him down to talk to us about the building and what could we do to handle this looming expense, this unsafe building is bringing down the values of the properties around it in Ridgefield Springs. Well, the good news is that my fellow Board of Representatives members agreed with me that we could forgive the $20,000 in taxes, look at it as an investment in a potential $100,000 demo that we were facing, which, as it turns out, never actually had happened. We turned the building over to the land bank. The land bank had engineers come down, assess the building, secure the building, and find value in the building. It's now under contract for sale to a developer who plans a staged development to return the building to use and the tax rolls, which is the mission of the land bank, to take dilapidated properties, either rehab, sell, or demolish, bring them back to the tax rolls. That's just one story that signifies the value that Otsego County has found with the land bank. And that's really pretty much all I have time for right now, so. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for coming and
Oh.
expressing your comments.
And in this envelope is a check for our properties that we owe you, the tax value. And I think you have before you this evening an opportunity to forgive the interest, penalties, and fees. This check represents the value minus the interest, penalties, and fees, about $36,000.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else who'd like to make public comment? Hearing none. Clerk, communications?
You all have a document that was given to you tonight, and the county attorney is going to speak on it.
This is a letter we received from the town of Glen. They're doing a seeker tour and have identified us as an involved agency. So we have an opportunity now, if we want to be the lead agency, to speak up. Otherwise, town of Glen will continue as the lead agency. It's involving the Buddhist temple expansion in town of Glen.
So,
Yep, that's it. It's for you to review.
okay. Thank you, Counselor. We don't have any minutes to approve this evening. Our clerk has been serving on jury duty the past 2 weeks, so we will move on to acceptance of the budgetary transfers. Can I accept the motion? Legislator Hudwell, do I have a second? Legislator Diamond, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Pass.
All right, now I'd like to accept a motion from the floor for the acceptance of the procurement record for the month of March. Legislator Kelly, Legislator Sweet. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Pass.
Okay, on to old business. For the past 2 months, we've been dealing with a tabled resolution number 45 of 2021. Rather than continuing to motion to table it and then reintroduce it, we are just going to let it rest for the time being until the city of Amsterdam gets back to us with their corroborating information regarding that back tax money, and gets back to our treasurer to be able to come up with some type of resolution that will have some more definition to it. And they are still engaged in their research end of the project. So we will reintroduce it at which time the city of Amsterdam gets back to us, and Treasurer Barman can put together a resolution that discusses how much money they were able to determine that they did not have, evidence of paying us, and we can arrive at some more exact amounts on that. So if everyone's all right with that, Legislator Pertel.
Can we just quickly review the process of what we've done so far and what has to be completed? I know that we tabled the resolution, and it was a good idea. And so Sean's office reviewed AS 400 records, is that correct?
What my office did is we recreated the files that the city claimed that they no longer had, and I sent those lists to them. Some were bankruptcies, some were actual foreclosures, some were contract payments. To date, from the work that we've done, it's not a huge amount, but the city's identified and paid us over $20,000 that was
Good.
they didn't have record of before, so it's still a work in progress, and I don't believe we should be writing off until we can come up to an agreement with what they had. But the biggest issue was the city claimed they did not have the records anymore, so what we did is recreate the list of parcel numbers and tax amounts for them to go back and check
So
their files.
you went through a portion of it and found 20,000 roughly. and they agreed.
By us sending them the list, they had found that some bankruptcies, some contracts were actually paid to the city, but they never paid the county.
So the bankruptcy doesn't forgive the debt because
No,
it's taxes.
bankruptcy
It's
does not
in-
forgive the debt, it just prevents
It's in rent, so it's
Right.
just forestays the
the
tax
taxing on
rate.
hold.
So that it gets accumulated, and that was a good portion of it, I would assume. So now you're recreating more of the list, is that
Well,
it?
I'm going back to year 2010 through,
8 or 19?
yes.
2000 to 2010.
2000 to 2010 is what
Okay,
we
yeah.
created, because they have from 2011 on. So,
So you still have another list that you will send to them, and then they'll tick off what they feel is.
it's a work in progress, and I will give a lot of credit to the deputy controller, because she's been working very well.
And this may go on for months and months.
Yeah, like I said, it's a tedious process, so it could take months.
All right, thank you, Sean. That's all from me.
Thank you, Legislator Patel. And Treasurer, that will be until which time we're able to determine how much money may actually need to be forgiven, correct?
Correct.
All right, under new business, I'd like to accept a motion from the floor to amend tonight's agenda to add resolution number 103 of 2021. Legislator Diamond and second Legislator Headwell. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Pass.
Thank you. All right. Well, we will now move into this evening's agenda of resolutions. Our first resolution this evening is a resolution authorizing the county executive to sign an agreement for professional services for community-wide hazardous substances brownfield assessment grant, and that is coming from our Economic Development and Planning Office. Sponsors were legislators Wilson and Sweet. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Pass.
Resolution number 85, resolution amending the 2021 budget for Montgomery County Clean Energy Community Grant Project, New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, NYSERDA, for the Economic Development and Planning Office. Sponsors were legislators Pep and Sweet. Discussion. Legislator Sweet.
Do we have any idea where these are going to be placed in the county?
We were gonna look at what about the new DPW, so.
Okay. I guess at some point, when we're doing this, I'd like to see them continue to come west, because I know the city of Amsterdam has 15, 18 of them.
Yeah, we have had some just very initial discussions with the same vendor that did those. And if it's, something we'd like to pursue, there's certainly opportunity there.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome, Legislator Sweet.
Can you explain,
Legislator.
can you explain this, exactly what this is?
For the grant for the,
Yeah, I thought it was for conducting research into, no, this is actually performing cleanups on, are these
These are charging.
Oh, I'm sorry. That makes more sense than, yeah. Thank you.
As part of the Climate Smart Communities pledge that we took, and there's various opportunities that opened up, and this was one of them.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Pass.
Resolution number 86, a resolution scheduling the 30-day public review period for the Montgomery County Agricultural District, number 1, from the Economic Development and Planning Office. Sponsors were legislators Sweet and Wilson. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Pass.
Resolution number 87, a resolution in support of application to designate 68 Church Street in Canajoharie, New York, for designation as a brownfield opportunity area from our Economic Development and Planning Office. Sponsors were legislators Diamond and Peck. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions?
Pass.
Resolution number 88, resolution authorizing the sale of county property, pallets, from the county legislature. Sponsors were legislators Kelly and Wilson. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Pass.
Resolution number 89, resolution for Berkshire Farm Center and Services for Youth, Enhanced Stepping Stones Agreement, juvenile diversion, and that is from the Department of Social Services. Sponsors were legislators Kelly and Peck. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Pass.
Resolution number 90, a resolution to amend the 2021 budget, transfer to capital project fund for the Department of Social Services. Sponsors were legislators Wilson and Peck. Discussion. Legislator Patel.
So just to go over this again, this is money that was in last year's budget that was not spent and not appropriated into this year's budget.
Correct. Was not, as an oversight, was not reappropriated into this year's budget.
And this is for fit up and construction.
That's correct, to my knowledge.
Very good, thank you.
You're welcome. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Pass.
Resolution number 91, a resolution authorizing the county executive to sign laboratory services agreement with Laboratory Corporation of America Holdings from the Department of Social Services. Sponsors were legislators Kelly and Wilson. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Pass.
Resolution number 92, a resolution for Berkshire Farm Center and Services for Youth, Stepping Stones Agreement, PINS for Social Services. Sponsors were legislators Diamond and Kelly. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Pass.
Resolution number 93, a resolution amending the 2021 budget and establishing a part-time temporary attorney for the Department of Social Services. Sponsors were legislators Diamond and Bertel. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Pass.
Resolution number 94, a resolution authorizing the county executive to sign an agreement with Montgomery County Sanitary District Number 1 for the disposal of leachate from landfills located in Montgomery County. Sponsors were legislators Sweet and Diamond. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Pass.
Resolution number 95, a resolution amending the 2021 operating budget surplus equipment auction for the Department of Public Works. Sponsors were legislators Wilson and Peck. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Pass.
Resolution number 96, a resolution awarding RFP number 505-21 for recycling services and authorizing the county executive to sign the agreement. Consolidated Waste Services LLC, DBA Twin Bridges Waste and Recycling, and that is from the Office of the County Treasurer. Sponsors were legislators Sweet and Peck. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Pass.
Resolution number 97, a resolution authorizing the county executive to sign easement agreements for roadway design improvements on Leper Road, County Highway 20 in the town of Amsterdam from the Department of Public Works. Sponsors were legislators Sweet and Diamond. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Pass.
Resolution number 98, a resolution authorizing the county executive to sign New York State Indigent Legal Services Grant Extension contracts for the Department of the Public Defender. Sponsors were legislators Sweet and Headwell Jr. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Pass.
Resolution number 99, a resolution authorizing advertising for bids for FMCC Financial Technology Lab Project. Sponsors were legislators Swede and Peck. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Pass.
Resolution number 100, resolution authorizing the Montgomery County Executive to execute an amendment of the memorandum of agreement with the Environmental Protection Agency for the county legislature.
Yes.
Somebody's got a,
Under discussion, I'm just waiting
Discussion.
still for, the EPA to send me the final draft. There's one point we're still waiting on. So I would like to wait until next month so you can review the draft in committee and then vote on it then. So I would, request that the sponsorship be withdrawn at this time. I think that was you, legislator Wilson. Or you could table it.
I'll make a motion to table it.
Okay, table by Patel, second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Table.
Resolution number 101, a resolution approving the abstract of audited claims. Sponsors were legislators Kelly and Wilson. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Pass.
Resolution number 102. I would like to sponsor an amendment to resolution number 102 to change the wording under the first resolved paragraph in it as it reads, and where you see the word "and" as made and attached thereto.
Made part of and attached here.
Made part of and attached, okay, thereto. Needs to be added to that paragraph.
Could you read that, Bill?
It would be attaching the purchase and sale agreement. So we're making it part of the resolution, attaching it to the resolution
It wasn't attached during the
during committee.
committee. All right, I've,
You need a second?
yeah, I need a second.
I'll second that.
Legislator Patel, all in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Now let's vote on the resolution number 102 as amended. Discussion. Hearing none? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Pass.
And our final resolution of the evening is resolution number 103 of 2021, the add-on from earlier in the meeting here. Resolution waiving penalties and fees on land bank properties from the county legislature. Do I have a sponsor? Legislator Diamond, do I have a second? Legislator Headwell. Discussion. Legislator Diamond.
Chair, if I can just give you a little background on the process that led to the resolution. It actually started with my predecessor. which may be one of the reasons he resigned, I'm not sure, but, just kidding. Land Bank asked me to meet with him and, spoke with them about what was going on and about their $750,000 investment in the county. And they were looking for some relief on the interest of penalties on the 16 properties listed in this resolution. There'll be 9 further properties to be discussed next month. But this resolution, it was, I think, a fruitful discussion, having listened to grievances from the land bank and then discussing with our legislators grievances that they had, which is really not part of this resolution. This resolution is strictly about real taxes. And everyone, has a fiduciary responsibility here. The county attorney has to make us follow real property law. Our county treasurer needs to collect as much taxes as possible, and our duties, as I mentioned previously, is to resolve any anomalies, which what this is. So I think there is a need to sit down next month, whether this resolution passes or not. I hope it does pass, to decide, is the land bank a good fit with us, and are we a good fit with them, and to work out any problems that have been going on since I can remember. So I just wanted to separate those two issues, that this has nothing to do with the land bank. This basically is a tax issue. So I asked Sean for some numbers, which he was very willing to provide. So the interest of penalty that this resolution is asking the legislature to waive is $12,038.36. If in fact we do waive it, there will, by April 30th, and I guess they have to check with them tonight, are willing to pay the taxable amount, which is $39,439.09. So that's the crux of it. If anyone has any questions I can answer, I'd be glad to, but I'd open it up to further discussion.
Legislator Garner, could you please describe the history, the brief history behind how this ended up being an add-on at a full meeting without having gone through committee, so the rest of the legislature can understand why we didn't have more time to ingest and digest this resolution, and if you could give them, all of us, background on that as well?
Sure. So there was a resolution I proposed that didn't really fit the needs of a land bank, so they came back with their own. In the interim, that email was sent out that unless these properties are paid by April 30th, there would be additional interest and penalties. So unfortunately, or fortunately or unfortunately, matter of factly, it sped up the process where the resolution wasn't prepared in time for our economic development meeting, so we had to do it as an add-on, which I know is something we try to avoid at all costs, but there is a timeline of April 30th, so it had to come to a full board meeting.
The Treasurer Bowerman, can you please describe to us the amount of, Legislator Diamond has indicated if this were to pass, there would still remain 9 properties with the land bank that are not being addressed this evening. Do you have off the top of mind what the back tax amount of those 9 properties are at this particular point in time, and the interest and penalties on those? If you can ballpark that for us so we know that.
No, honestly, I don't have it. I really don't want to quote incorrect numbers for the remaining 9, but my understanding is the land bank is looking to negotiate, possibly have those canceled.
I mean, I remember last year when this came before us in its totality, roughly the back taxes were about $65,000 and the interest and penalties were about $17,000, bringing the total cost up into the low 80s, 81, 82,000. So, I mean, safe to assume at the very least that the remaining tax amount due on the remaining properties would be the difference of that $65,000. So we're talking about another $25,000 25,000, yes.
I think they might be on the back of it.
Okay, can somebody read them to me without
So it looks like,
pulling out the Hubble telescope here?
looks like the interest and penalty would be $79,8235, $7,982.35, and the taxes due would be $21,122.78.
All right, thank you.
And the issue is too, if there's, they need to be resolved, or they would then go through the foreclosure process or the auction. So there's an incentive for us to try to resolve these, an incentive for the land bank to try to resolve these.
Could you repeat that?
So the interest and the
verbiage that you gave out.
Oh, so in other words, on our resolution tonight, by them paying the taxes, that would end any further,
On these 16
on
properties.
these 16. On the 9, there's a time frame. I'm not exactly sure what it is, I think it's another month, that they would need to be resolved, or then they would fall into the foreclosure process.
It would start the foreclosure process.
It would start, yeah.
Excuse me if I could.
So
I
that's-
don't know what you mean.
It's already, they're already listed in the foreclosure process, the papers would be filed at the end of the month,
At the end of
May,
May.
to
So
foreclose.
so at the end of May, they're already listed, they would be filed at the end of May, and then the land bank would have a certain amount of time to pay those after that, or?
Well, right now, the foreclosure would be filed at the end of May, so it would depend on what happens with the property.
So pretty much the end of May, that there would have to be some decision on these properties.
So the front page is what we're dealing with. On the back of that page, it looks like an addition, is that the additional ones? Or what is it on the
Yes,
back?
that's correct.
And so the total for redeeming those before it goes is 29,000 with almost $8,000 worth of penalties, correct?
Correct.
Let's see.
Just curious as to why the taxes not paid on that. If they have the money now, why wasn't it paid at the time it came due?
Certainly a good question. I don't know that I have that answer, but it appears as, Treasurer Barman, we'll get to you in a second, though. Treasurer Barman?
I guess the question is, the reason they weren't paid is because, these were, it's a combination with these properties. When they were transferred, many of them were transferred by resolution, and the resolution stated that the land bank, was responsible to pay the lag taxes. And that's what many of these taxes that are outstanding include, with the lag taxes. Some of these properties, the land banks acquired with taxes outstanding and, on their own, and, they did not come forward to pay those either. So it's a case where, the land bank, in essence, is responsible for these taxes.
Upon acquisition.
Correct.
Yes.
So there was an initial meeting in October, from what I understand, I wasn't here, where they went through, and the county and the land bank stated their position, and I think it's the P16 that were able to be resolved. For it's my understanding, if the property was acquired during tax auction, they weren't required to pay the back tax. If it was acquired through legislation, then they were required to pay, and that's what the rub is.
And is it safe to say that the 16 that we have in front of us were all of one of those characteristics or the other? Legislator.
I have a question.
In other words, are these 16 here a commingled sample of properties that were acquired through legislation and or through auction, or are they all just acquired from us with the 9 remaining acquired through auction?
Yes, those are commingled. And
These are.
if I could, for the question for Legislator Sweet, part of the problem was, and we worked through a lot of this in the October meeting, but I think all parties acknowledged that 22 to 40,000, depending on, when you're looking at, of the taxes assessed, were incorrectly assessed. What happened is we're a new entity and it's a new law, and so a lot of the assessors continue to assess us taxes that we were exempt from. And Sean and Legislator Purcell and Megan, we worked through that and we corrected a lot of those errors. So there were quite a few errors that were taken off at the November meeting. But what we were looking for is it took a great deal of time to work with all the assessors. A lot of assessors were not responsive. And what happened is during the period we were trying to get the taxes corrected, they continued assessing interest, penalties, and fees, even though we were making good faith negotiations to correct them for over 2 years. And I have letters, certified, mail, everything, we were sending them regularly.
Just to clarify though, one point, all of the ones that were incorrectly assessed, you guys passed a resolution wiping those out. So that, all those have been resolved and were resolved in October, November?
Yeah.
So those were taken care of as soon as we became aware of the issue.
Legislator Kelly.
So now I have 2 questions, but one, what was the outcome of the meeting
In November?
in November? What was the agreed outcome?
The outcome at that time is we reduced the amount of money owed because of the assessments. And it was brought down to about $67,000 without penalties, and it was about $82,000 with penalties. That included all the properties. I would assume that that was 26 properties if we have 6 or 25 properties. It was 15 that we're dealing with now and 9 additional ones that you're setting aside to do later. And then there was we pretty much had a good agreement at that point. We had agreement on it at the table, and I don't know, it kind of fell through the cracks after that.
And then I don't feel comfortable moving on this because we have 2 different numbers now that we're being asked to. You know, on this one worksheet, we have zeros in taxes due. But
Is any of this money gonna have to be picked up by other local municipalities? Treasurer Barman? Or they're not picked up, but will other local municipalities suffer from this if this move is made?
Well, it would be a loss of interest revenues in county general fund.
But not other municipalities.
But not other municipalities, correct?
Correct.
Chair?
Let's tell.
So, I'm not sure what I'm gonna vote at this point, but I think some valid points are this. We have a check for $39,000.
Yeah, you said 36, Megan, and already, I was gonna ask you that question. too.
because on their sheet, they have zeros.
36,121.
Which was the latest, and we can make a check for the difference, but that was the latest number that we had.
Okay. So, as the government, correct me if I'm wrong, counsel, that we can't forgive taxes,
Correct.
but we can negotiate or whatever on penalties and fees. The risk is that we set a precedent in the future of maybe a private entity comes and says, oh, I have a factory in Canajoharie and I can sell it, but I'm $15,000 short and my taxes have $15,000 in penalties. And that, we're at the other end of a gun with that. Someone's pointing it, not maliciously, but pointing a gun at our head saying, look, it's if or if not, this is what's going to happen. I don't want to set a precedent for opening that door. I have to tell you, I like the idea of a check being handed over to us today and maybe putting some closure to these. Doesn't mean that I'm gonna vote that way right now, but that's what's appealing to me. What bothers me is what's gonna happen with the additional 9 properties and what we're gonna do with that. Are we gonna end up owning them? And I really don't have that concern. If we end up through foreclosure owning them, that's not the worst thing that could happen, and we maybe can liquidate them. My discomfort is that we negotiated in good faith 8 or 6 months ago, and things changed. And I don't like that, okay? So I think it comes down to, do we take a check of $36,000 and an IOU for $3,000 and move on these things? And again, we've put a lot of work into clearing our books, like with the city of Amsterdam. I don't think that's a bad thing. Again, I still don't know how I'm gonna vote, and I would appreciate any feedback from other legislators.
Senator Kelly.
I really don't like that we had, one, I don't like the theatrics of walking, I've got a check in hand to pay to them. 2, we had a meeting, there was a consensus at that meeting, it should have been a moot point at this point.
Good point. Legislator Sweet.
Maybe the councilor or Sean can answer this question. Is there a mechanism in place if an entity pays the taxes on time and then finds out that they were assessed wrong to get reimbursed the difference after?
That's the correction of errors process.
Okay, so I thought, thank you.
What is that?
The correction of errors process?
Correction of errors.
Yes, sorry, correction of errors. Error, E-R-R-O-R.
Okay, it's a process, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's what comes before you guys for tax correction.
Legislator Isabel.
Mr. Chairman, correct me if I'm wrong, these negotiations were started to forgive all of the penalties and interest, weren't they?
They were,
And then the treasurer came up with the idea of trying to help them with the research, give the city bills that they couldn't find, right? Is that correct?
This is a separate issue, Legislator Isabel. This has to do with the land bank's back taxes on the 25 properties in Montgomery County of ours that.
So who did the research? Our
Yes, there was a meeting last fall that was attended by Legislator Patel, our counselor, and representatives from the Mohawk Valley, or the Greater Mohawk Valley Land Bank, which at the time ascertained that the back taxes on all 25 of these properties was roughly $67,000, and that the interest and penalties on them brought the total amount due up into the low 80 range, about $82,000. And it appeared as though we were going to have a resolution before us late last year that was going to ask of us to forgive just the interest and penalties and have them pay the taxes, the 60-some-odd thousand.
So that changed from the beginning, correct?
So since November, the blueprint has changed a bit as requested by the land bank to do it piecemeal now, where we have 16 of the properties in front of us that the back tax amount on is $39,439, and the interest and penalties due are $12,038. And they're asking us this evening to acquiesce to forgive the $12,038 in interest and penalties, and are willing to pay us the back taxes on those 16 of 25 properties at $39,439. However, they will be back again next month after further negotiations to talk about the remaining 9 properties, and if we could perhaps acquiesce to forgive the interest and penalties on them. All told, it appears as though we'd be looking at giving up $12,000 plus, what was that other figure, 79? So about $20,000 in interest and penalties, 12 of which they're asking for forgiveness of at this point in time as part of this resolution. Legislator Hagel.
So, back in November, what did you say that amount was that they were looking at?
I believed it was in the low 80s, 82,000.
But you were negotiating down in the 60s or something like that or something?
Well, no, they were asking us to absolve them of all the back interest and penalties on the full lot of 25 properties, which was, you know, I don't know, $15,000, $16,000, $17,000, which have obviously grown to 20 now since that time.
I mean, the thing is, if you look at the 40,000 or 39 that they're looking for here, and even if you look at what's the 21, you're talking almost 61,000. You know, right there, getting, you know, but I'm in favor of moving these properties and getting this done, negotiating the next thing, figuring out what we need to do. But again, we've been talking about this in November, we're talking about it now. We need to move forward and resolve this. We don't need more properties to go back into foreclosure and start this process all over again, because this keeps costing more and more money. We need to sometimes cut the cord and move forward.
Another good point, Legislator Hagwell. Legislator Patel.
So originally, what it was the taxes alone were around $87,000, I believe. And after not negotiating with, but discussing with the land bank, discussing between the attorneys in that meeting, it was resolved that there was $67,000 of taxes due. Then we had a discussion about the penalties and things like that, and I think that's where we had the issue of not coming to a conclusion at that time. But the total, you know, was well upwards of $100,000 with penalties originally. And there might have been 105,000. 141. So we did work considerably to get that down. So again, I think what it comes down to is we have to make a decision whether we take the 39,000.
Well, we've all made
move
some.
on.
Yeah.
And my other question before I finish is the arithmetic, if you will, on the two sheets is $3,000 difference and $2,000 difference in penalties. I think that we should have a discussion of why that is before we go any further.
Olga, can you add some color to that, please?
Yes, and I did the best I could going off of Sean's numbers, but there are a couple that we had some, you know, uncertainty about. We've also, the four that are zeros at the bottom, I included all the properties, but those, Sean did confirm that those were paid up. And those, we have sold some properties and we had to settle the interest, penalties, and fees, so we did go ahead and pay on 4 properties. We've made, you know, some payments since that time. And to the December point about the resolution, we did come in December, but we there wasn't a willingness to come with a motion, so we were asked to come back at a later point. So we did come in December to try to settle it.
Right after your November meeting.
Yeah.
Legislator Patel.
So Sean, this sheet is yours, correct? And color this is yours?
The sheet that I emailed to the ledge at about 4:30.
Sean's sheet is the one with the 39,000, the Legislator Patel on the bottom.
Right.
That is the accurate numbers, because, once the land bank actually obtains possession, interest at that point stops. No more further interest can be charged when they take possession. So that's, there may be some difference in numbers between what was originally given to Tolga and what you have, because our computer system doesn't take the anomalies into consideration. So the numbers that were sent to you at 4:30 today are the accurate numbers of what the land bank would be required to pay to clear these properties. the 39,000 plus the,
So the four on the bottom of these have no bearing on this. Would you agree?
and that the spreadsheet that I sent out this afternoon only addresses those 16 on the resolution.
All right, well, legislator Isco.
If that check wasn't there, I wouldn't even be considering it, so that's beside
Well, I think,
the point. Does our controller recommend that we accept it? That's the question.
well, it's a very good question, and I think we should ask him that. I don't want to put him on the spot, but I think we're going to.
You gotta go on the spot on this one.
If you're gonna put me on the spot, I'm gonna look out for all the taxpayers of the county, and I'm gonna say, no deal. That's my opinion as county treasurer.
I'm forgiving this 12,000
If
interest and penalties.
it's up to the ledge, if you want me to accept that check, you will have to pass legislation to forgive the principal, the interest and penalties.
Which is what this resolution is designed to do, forgive the interest and penalties. All right, I think we've thoroughly discussed this, many good points from all perspectives, positive and negative. And it's time for a vote. Roll call.
Legislator Diamond.
Aye.
Legislator Hedwell.
Aye.
Legislator Wilson.
Aye.
Chairman Peck.
Aye.
Legislator Isabel.
Abstain.
Legislator Patel.
Can I clarify one thing before I vote?
Absolutely.
So you're going to provide a check for $39,439?
There'll be two checks, one will be after.
We could do it the
This
difference.
and then one.
Let's take what we got right now
Can I see what your check is?
and let them add to it. I'm not gonna wait for another revised check. if we're
No,
gonna accept
I
it.
agree. Can I keep this?
First you vote.
I'm gonna vote aye.
No,
Legislator Kelly.
no.
Legislator Sweet.
No.
Pass.
Legislator Kevin?
No, it requires just a simple majority to do this.
I believe so.
It was 5 aye, 2 nay, 2 other.
Someone drop that check off tomorrow. The other, the balance.
Yes, oh, yeah.
Waiting for the counselor to do some research here.
say 2/3.
Does not say 2/3.
No. Real property tax law 1182, if anyone wants to check it, but it's, or is anyone's interested in the reference, but, says, no reduction shall be made without consent of the municipal corporation affected, which consent may be given by resolution.
Could you
It's real property tax law 1182.
Which they're proposing.
Actually, I apologize. Consent may be given by resolution adopted after a public hearing. So we actually have to have a public hearing on this.
And we can't have that till next month, and the taxes are due at the end of the month.
With a simple majority to pass?
Simple majority to pass to. You could do a special meeting to set a public hearing and do it
Chairman,
in May.
Section 3.06 of the IMA forming the land bank allows the county to set aside any interest, tax principal, interest, penalties, or fees for any properties owned by the land bank, and I believe that's by a simple majority. But I included that in my attachment in the December packet for the legislature, and that's in the IMA of the land bank.
Right, that's an intermunicipal agreement.
But it falls under the state, it's under section 16, .08 of the New York State nonprofit law, which establishes land banks.
I can check that reference and see if we have a state law authorization.
Yeah.
Section 1608.
1608 of the state nonprofit law. Sorry.
Could you repeat the roll call on
The vote on the resolution?
that, please? Just the yes votes.
Yes votes were
Legislature.
3, 4, 5, 8, 9. Or 7, 9. 8 was an abstain, 1 was a no, 2 was a no. 1, yes, 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 yes,
Okay,
yes.
you voted yes, okay.
Abstain,
That's what I
no,
missed.
no.
That's what I missed.
Yeah.
Because I can't see it until after we finish the meeting.
Are we done with that?
I don't think we are because,
No, I'm trying to find
yeah.
another reference that we don't have to do a public meeting, I'm not seeing.
because of the last minute nature of this, we need to make a determination this evening.
Whether we have to have a public hearing.
Because otherwise, they could go to tax foreclosure as of April 30th for non-payment of the tax, the principal taxes.
If so, we should get it to be advertised on the 30th.
You could do a motion to amend the agenda to add a resolution from the floor for a public hearing.
Tonight?
Yeah. And then have a public hearing and a special meeting.
And when would that need to be?
Public hearings, I believe we have to do this
10 days?
10 days out.
So the earliest I could put it in paper would be Friday, the 30th, which would May 11th would be the earliest for the public hearing. May 10th, Monday or Tuesday.
resolution.
Yeah. Property amount would stay the same.
Can we take a 5-minute break while the attorney or counsel?
Absolutely. 5-minute break.
Megan, you want me to grab my, I have a statute in my car.
Yeah, if you wanna get it, that's great, because
Yeah.
I'm not seeing it in my,
Yep.
Can I help you on, you look for something?
No.
That's good.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
No problem. From what I hear, the media and everything, it's a seller's market. You go there and buy junk.
I do. Yeah, actually just very small, but I generally target mid-May and Swiss chard, the great one, green cabbages, cauliflower, kale, mixed kale, cilantro, pepper, cucumbers, zucchini, basil, and I'm looking at. I have a whole lot.
Is there a link to your product list?
When I get everything up on it, like Spotify, a Shopify thing.
Give me a heads up.
I will.
So we can share it with them down and grab some stuff. And she wanted to do
check
a small
my
garden this year, she did some last year, and some small vegetable stuff. She generally does like 4 tomatoes, a handful of peppers, or
Yeah,
something like that.
and when it's all up, available at the shop and pay for it online.
Okay.
And then just pick it up.
Come by and pick it up.
Yeah.
And that's the one that's over in that building behind, over by Validation, you and I talked about. Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
just,
it's a busy season getting all that stuff rolling, but yeah, it should be good.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be good for us to do that, you know, to get them, she's done everything from trying from seed to buying, you know, plants this big, and I just as soon try to get something small and try to work it out. Actually, I had built my son a sandbox years ago, and.
Well, you're saying
taken some
not-for-profit
sand-
corporation law 1608?
Yeah,
It
we're gonna
doesn't
know
say,
now.
it doesn't say anything about that.
Some drainage.
It's acquisition of real property. Real property and land bank, may be conveyed subject to such conditions as a municipality wants to impose, which is already done. The land, the property's already been conveyed.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring it up, but I'm sure it's in.
So if my work comes through that, it's probably 5 foot by 8 foot. So that would be pretty good for a
Isn't the only importance of the question whether we need a supermajority or not?
No, the question is, do we need a public hearing or not?
Thank you.
When we go back
Just saying.
I'm not seeing it, Chairman, but Toby apparently has a reference somewhere.
Yeah, I'm just opening it up.
1608, you said.
Yes,
That's, I'm looking at that statute right now, Toby.
it's 13 pages. You look through all 13.
But I'm looking at 1608.
Well, my computer is just pulling it up.
Megan, would you like to use a computer so you can see?
You got young eyes.
What do you say?
What do you say? What's the implication?
What's your point?
Say your whole part.
Montgomery Stew Point, legislator Kelly. Bring that up.
Sorry, I'm ruining everyone's dinner.
No?
John,
You're kidding, it was 8 o'clock anyway. Dinner is, it's a bowl of cereal night for the chairman.
Speak for yourself, Joe.
Remember one thing, Mike, once you miss a meal, you can never make it up.
That's right. You know, while, just so in the essence of time, while, counselor's looking this up along with Tolga, I just wanted to, under other, you know, we've had quite a bevy of add-on resolutions, since the beginning of the year. To a point where they've become the norm instead of the exception. And to have at least one or more. And whereas all of them have their own sets of circumstances which may have legitimized the need to make them add-ons, whether it was the ones that were given to us for the DA when they took office and wanted to make some changes, whether it was related to the E29 labs last week, whether it was something such as this evening, which obviously Legislator Diamond described the details behind. They all have circumstantial characteristics which suggest it was legitimate to have them as add-ons. However, you know, when you look at the totality of the picture, it's happening far too much. I've spoken to Executive Ossenfort on the side and asked him, told him that I would make some type of public announcement about it at this meeting to try and curtail them and make them only in an absolute emergency. And he indicated that he would be agreeing to that going forward. So, but I just wanted to make it a matter of a public announcement as well as part of our meeting this evening, that it has been discussed with him, and he indicated that that would be something he would try to adhere to, and so I just wanted to make you all aware of that, and hopefully, you know, we don't see a lot of them going forward. So I just wanted to make that a matter of record.
To that point, we are in April. And this resolution was from December.
Yeah. I mean, obviously you heard the story about
Well, I understand, but.
metamorphosized there,
Yeah.
you know, but, no, I know. And there was no good time to bring this up, you know, I mean, I was gonna do it under, you know, old business right before, or, you know, under new business right before we, you know, introduced an add-on, you know, so I figured it would be best to do it as we got to the end here, and, anyway, so, you know, let's set it for top.
You know, it's been a common thread ever since I was on this body that we didn't like add-on resolutions, but we accept them without any pushback. And, you know, I'm not looking that we have a resolution to say, look, we're not gonna do this anymore, but I think we should all agree or disagree that we want to limit at all costs the add-on resolution. And whether it's a policy or just a simple, we don't amend the.
Well, there are measures we can take as a legislature as they're introduced. We can not accept them, and, you know, when we make a motion to add them, I mean, they don't have to be accepted, nor do they have to be voted on positively if they are accepted to be added on. when they come before us to vote on them. So, you know, we do have abilities to stymie them, you know, on the spot as they're brought up, but nobody wants, you know, the perception always with add-ons is, you know, there's a little speed here, you know, I mean, we don't have time to, look at things thoroughly and then all of a sudden they're before us. Now, I mean, you know, I've thought about this. We get our agendas on Fridays for committee. I don't know who or how much people analyze their resolutions before the meeting, before our committee meeting, but, you know, in some respects, I can see them being added on, you know, before a committee meeting if need be, because there's time to discuss them then, but certainly not, you know, before a voting meeting, you know. That would be best to curtail, you know.
I see your point 100%, because the thing is we got to the point where if we have add-ons, then we just believe that the add-on was a real emergency and needed to be done, not versus someone didn't do something and all of a sudden now we get extra. So I'd like to be able to get back to the point that when we have one of these add-on resolutions, it's not because we're trying to sneak something by, but it's because it's something that had to be done at the last minute, and it couldn't wait to the next month or something else.
But, yeah, it looks like.
As long as it just isn't a matter of inconvenience that we do that.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times, not a lot of times, it has in the past come across that it's an inconvenience that if we don't do it.
Yes. Well, I
Time
think,
sensitive is another question, but again, look, we're gonna do it anyways at some point, right?
yeah, I mean, nobody
So
says you
we-
can't do them anymore, and I talked with council about this morning too, and, tell her that I was going to mention this, and I think this is worth mentioning, that she indicated, you know, we can say, hey, look, we want resolutions by the first of the month, you know, and I will go on record saying that is our preference, to get them by the first of the month, so that everybody has time to, you know, the clerk has time to get them arranged. You know, I mean, and even if they don't comply with that, and they get it to, the clerk by the 8th of the month, and our meeting's on the 15th, you know, I don't know that that's a crime, you know.
Are we back in our meeting?
Are we, what's,
Mr. Chairman, I believe we need to move forward with the public hearing based on what the real
Okay.
property tax law and the land bank law says at this point. So I would say the best way to proceed at this point would be to do another motion to amend the agenda, add a resolution from the floor, setting a public hearing date for a date, Cheryl, that you can get things in the paper with the 10-day notice requirement.
May 10th work? It's a Monday.
I can get this in the paper tomorrow to be advertised for Friday the 30th, which 10 days would be
10th.
The
the
time.
10th. So we could do Monday the 10th. You pick a time, and are we doing it virtual?
And then a special meeting right after.
Right.
Right,
So our vote was mute.
it was.
Yeah.
But even, so we don't have to do anything with the vote that just happened?
I mean, the cleanest way would be to do a motion to rescind, or a resolution to rescind, resolution 103, and then do a special hearing to make sure we're running.
Okay.
Right.
We could do it just before our committee meeting, instead of having
The committee meeting's not until May,
the following week.
right, May 18th.
You might as well, because the penalty's already been approved by that point, anyway, by the tenth, so it doesn't, another week isn't gonna really matter.
Right.
Sean can figure it out for the 18th, what the exact.
Need a motion to
Because the
reconsider.
penalty is.
All right,
That's what I was thinking.
all right, so how about a motion from the floor to rescind the resolution, as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Legislator Patel,
Second.
Legislator Diamond, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Now, I'd like to put a motion on the floor to establish a public hearing.
To amend the agenda.
Oh, to amend the agenda
To
this
add a,
evening,
add a resolution.
to add a resolution,
It'd be 104.
number 104, just keep feeding me,
Okay.
Instead of public hearing.
to set a public hearing.
A second.
I'll motion, make a motion.
I think I motioned to be
Oh,
second.
I'll
So your
second.
okay.
All right, to set a public hearing, regarding,
Waiving penalties and fees on land bank properties.
Waiving interest penalty and fees, right?
yeah, on land bank properties.
For May 18th.
For the 18th.
For Tuesday, May 18th, at 5:55, the public hearing.
Sure. No, 5:50, because then you're gonna do a special meeting.
Oh, 5:50. All in favor?
Okay, can we discuss?
Oh, sure, let's let it talk.
Where does that time frame put the land bank as far as the foreclosure process or penalties after the 30th of this? Not that it makes any difference if we have to have a public hearing, but
They will continue to accrue through the 18th, but we're gonna have to waive whatever's accrued between now and then.
right, but does it jeopardize?
Well, I mean, if it was gonna be the 10th, it was still gonna be past the April 30 D-Day, so either way.
They go on the foreclosure list when it's after April 30th.
What's that, Sean?
April 30th is the last day of redemption. After that point, they go on what they call Schedule A of the foreclosure list. And once we submit to the court Schedule A, that the courts will, in essence, strike the property, or grant the property to the county. Our normal process is, if the homeowner or owner wants the property back, they can pay the taxes, the interest penalty, and auction truck charges to have the property deeded back to them.
So the difference would be the auction prep.
Correct. The auction prep fees and deed filing fees.
Can we exempt them from the auction fees with the contractor? I.e. the auctioneer?
I have to talk with Megan if we can legally withdraw the properties, if there's a legal reason to withdraw the properties.
Yeah, we can get you that one.
And the fees are 5 or 10%, is that
It's a flat 250 fee
flat?
per parcel.
So it's $400? No,
$4,000 more,
right?
16 times 250, yep.
Good.
And now what about the 9 other properties?
That's gonna have to be a whole separate
Are
discussion.
they already in the same process as this one?
Not yet. They got another month, right?
Well, they're all in the same, no, they're all in the same boat.
They're
So
all in the
April
same boat.
30th, they all pretend like every property we're foreclosing on is on the same timeline throughout the whole county.
Even the other 9 that are not on this resolution?
Yes, all in the same timeline for foreclosure.
Sense of urgency, but yet we don't plan on urgency.
No.
What's that?
Chair. So
Yes.
the motion to amend
Yes.
is for scheduling a public hearing at 5:50 PM on May 18th and a special meeting at 5:55 PM.
Can that be all part of one, or do we have to do 2?
I believe so, is Megan,
We can do
fine with
it.
that? There would just be a resolve that the legislature schedules special meeting and public hearing, and special meeting.
So the motion that's pending is to amend the agenda to add that, so to vote on that first.
Right, and I sponsored it, and legislator Patel seconded it.
Correct.
Okay, any further discussion? So what we have before us is we're amending tonight's agenda to include a public hearing on this issue Tuesday, May 18th at 5:50, and then a special meeting at 5:55 before our committee meeting to make a determination.
So now resolution 104 needs to stop.
So we need to vote on the motion to amend.
You did, you just did.
Well,
No, we haven't voted.
we got a first and a second, I don't know if we voted.
We didn't vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Pass.
Okay. Now, I need a motion
I'll sponsor.
for the public hearing in the special meeting.
I'll second.
Bedwell,
Second.
legislator Patel. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Abstentions?
Pass.
Okay. Is there anything else anybody would like to bring before the legislature this evening?
Yes.
Legislator Patel.
I'd like to discuss what are our options for this letter from the Town of Glen Planning Board.
Okay.
So we can either, be the, if we want to be the lead agency, we would need to pass a resolution.
I'm sorry.
If we want to be the lead agency on that, we would need to pass a resolution declaring ourselves lead agency and sending correspondence out to the town of Glen. We could pass a resolution saying we don't want to be a lead agency, or we take no action, which means we don't become lead agency.
So,
They identified they identified us as involved agents, as an involved agency because of the public health department. I spoke with our public health director and she, did not express any specific position on this, if that helps with anything.
Is there an advantage or disadvantage to either way for us?
Usually, this is something that pretty intimately affects the town of Glen, and usually the municipality that is most affected by this decision is the best one to do the seeker for the lead.
The ZBA would do that.
Yeah.
It's like when, we're looking at the property at, the Johnstown Industrial Park.
Right.
We first wanted to be the lead agency. The judge ruled that the town, because they're closest to the situation, should be the lead agency.
Right.
I don't think that applies to this.
so probably
Absolutely.
the best course of action is to do nothing. And,
Right. Non-committal.
Is that the spirit of what we want to do?
And the town has been
I would think so.
dealing with this group for a very long time. They're very familiar with this group, so I think we should just continue letting them
Yeah.
handle this.
Everybody agree on that?
But also limit our liability too.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, motion to adjourn. Legislators Kelly and Sweet. Meeting's adjourned.